Hello, my name's Paul Beavis and I'm the writer and illustrator of Mrs. Mo's Monster. It's about this short little blue guy down here, and he runs into our story and he meets Mrs. Mo here. So here we go, Mrs. Mo's Monster by Paul Beavis. And here comes our monster, he's already running into our story. One day there was a knock at the front door. Mr. Mo was gardening, so Mrs. Mo went to see who it might be. And in ran a monster. He was looking for something to crunch, munch and chew. That's what monsters do. Not even a hello, said Mrs. Mo. How rude. Mrs. Mo found the monster crunching on a paintbrush. Excuse me, said Mrs. Mo, how will we paint things now? The monster thought and thought, but he only knew what he knew. So he roared, I crunch, munch and chew. And off he ran. Next, Mrs. Mo found the monster munching on a ball of string. Excuse me, said Mrs. Mo, but how will we tie things now? The monster thought and thought, but still he only knew what he knew. So he roared, I crunch, munch and chew. And off he ran. A little later, Mrs. Mo found the monster chewing on a spoon. Now I know what you can do, said Mrs. Mo, but shall we try something new? No, roared the monster. No, no, no. And off he ran. That Mrs. Mo can't tell me what to do, he grumbled. I'm a monster. And what I do is crunch, munch and chew. When the monster had finished, he wondered what else he could do. He thought and thought and thought some more, but still he only knew what he knew. Then he had an idea. Excuse me, said the monster, what is this you do? I'm painting letters, said Mrs. Mo. Shall I show you how? Said the monster, that's something I could never do. And what is this you do? Asked the monster. I'm tying things, said Mrs. Mo. It's easy, you try. Said the monster, that's another thing I could never do. Now what is this you do? Said the monster. I'm stirring cake mix, said Mrs. Mo. Said the monster, that's something I could definitely do. And together they started to mix. So there they are, stirring the mix. And now they're pouring it in. And now, what's this in the oven? They're timing the cake. And now the icing on the cake. When everything was ready, Mrs. Mo and the monster shouted, Surprise! Happy birthday, Mr. Mo. Thanks ever so much, said Mrs. Mo. I couldn't have done this without you. Just then there was a knock knock at the door. Mrs. Mo and the monster went to see who it might be. And in ran two children. They were looking for something to bash, smash and throw. That's what children do. Not even a hello, said the monster. How rude. And that's the end. Hopefully you enjoyed hearing Mrs. Mo's Monster. We've got a new Mrs. Mo's Monster book coming out September 2015, and this time the monster doesn't stay in the house. This time he leaves the house and he goes on an adventure. And this new Mrs. Mo's book's going to be called Hello World, and it's available by Gecko Press.